Hi everyone, my name is Ting Becker, and the name of my talk is called How Falling Behind Actually Got Me Ahead. If you haven't heard of me, that's totally fine. I'm a nobody. However, I do host a monthly virtual networking event for iOS developers. It's called iOS Dev Happy Hour. On top of that, I am always involved with community events. So please do keep a lookout on my Twitter feed. My Twitter handle is at Teekachu1. That's Teekachu and the number one. Anyways, as you can tell from the intro, this is not a technical talk. I wanted to come here and share my experience from switching careers at the age of 29, how I did it in 8 months, all the challenges I faced, and how I navigated imposter syndrome, and taught myself how to code with a beginner's mind. I do hope that you can take some things away from this, but if not, that's totally fine. Just treat it as a story. And then also, side note, I am kind of sick right now, and I might need to cough a little bit once in a while. I will do my best to edit those out of the video. But if I can, I do want to apologize right now. I am sorry for the cough. It's not COVID. It's just a cold. But anyways, let's get started. So just to start, I want to talk a little about my professional background. I went to school at San Francisco State University with a degree in accounting. I spent the last 5-ish of my life as an accountant. So right when I graduated, I got an offer at KPMG, which is one of the big four accounting slash consulting firm in the industry. I worked in private equity slash venture capital funds industry for 2.5 years. And then that's when I started studying for my CPA. For those of you that are not familiar with the term CPA, stands for Certified Public Accountant. So I am a CPA in the state of California. And keep in mind, I studied for the CPA during busy season, which is a really difficult time in every single accountant's life. You're basically gonna be working from I want to say 9 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. or 12 a.m. on a good day. And if you're not familiar with the entire CPA exam process, it's long. So basically there are 4/5 different exams that you need to take to pass all your CPA exams. And each exam takes I think it was 3.5 hours or 3 hours. It's really long. And each book is super thick. It's a lot of information. You basically have to schedule for your test. Well, you have to apply to even sit for the test. You have to get your fingerprint and a whole bunch of paperwork. And then you have to schedule your test months in advance. The fees are also really expensive to apply for tests, and it depends on which test you're applying for. It varies. I don't quite remember. I think it was $200 per test. I don't remember. I just remember it was a lot. But basically, you can only schedule one test at a time. They also have expiration dates, which I think it was 6 months. It's a couple of months from the date of the last past exam. So if you don't pass your next exam within that time frame, your first past exam expires, and then you have to retake it all over again. So it was really annoying. And I did this during busy season. Well, I started the process during busy season, and it was really hard. I was working till well, I had a good senior at the time, so I was working till maybe 8 or 9, and then after work I would go hide in the phone room, and I would study for another few hours after. And then that's all I did on weekends. I just studied. I even had to take like an entire sabbatical, which was, I think it was 2 or 3 months, to like study and just take one of the exams. But anyways, it was a really long process, but I did it, I came out the end of the tunnel with my shiny success and a status that said, all exams passed. So I was with KPMG for 2.5 years. And then after that, I went to a private company called Stockbridge. It is a private like real estate fund. So I was a senior fund accountant there for like about a year and a half. And I really liked it. I loved my coworkers. The company had a great culture. And then at the end of the year and a half, that's when COVID hit. So, talking about all of that, some people might ask, so what went wrong? Like it seemed like you got what you wanted. You got your CPA, you got to a senior, you're just climbing the ladder. So, why did you quit? And I had several different reasons. I think the biggest one for me was happiness. Um, I know it sounds cliche, but I just never really felt happy and comfortable being in that role. Of course, there were moments I was happy, when I passed all my exams, I was really happy. When I got my promotion, oh my God, I was so happy. I went out, like I celebrated with my friends. Um, but those are all very short and temporary happiness. And after my celebratory dinner, after coming home from going out, like I would just think to myself, now what? What's the next step? Like, what am I trying to do? Am I trying to stay here and make manager? What is my end goal? Do I want to like become a controller or a CFO somewhere eventually one day? Do I want to like open my own CPA practice? Um, and I didn't know. And it's kind of funny because I worked so hard to get to where I am, like the exams, like working long hours, those take hard work. But then when you get to where you want to go and you still feel lost, it's a very strange feeling. Um, so happiness was a big reason. The second reason was passion. I am driven by passion. I would like to say I'm a very passionate person. Um, and like when kids grow up, they say, oh my God, I want to be doctors or scientists or artists. And now like kids say, oh, I want to be an influencer or, Instagram famous when they're older, and that's fine. But like, I guarantee you, no kid out there that said, oh my God, I want to grow up and be an accountant. I want to do taxes and audit companies. I don't think kids did that. So passion was also another really big reason. Um, the third reason I would say would be like my ability. Honestly, if I were to like rate myself, like rate my entire ability out of 10, I would give myself like a 7 at best. And that's a C, that is a shame. That's not a good thing. Um, And ability is really important, especially for professional service providers like CPAs, like, lawyers, whatever, doctors. Um, for me, I think my ability wasn't at where I want to be is because the passion and the happiness wasn't there. For example, like I had coworkers that like would read up the accounting codifications after work, or like before bed. You know how sometimes you read a book before bed? Like my coworker would read these thick, long, very technical accounting codifications before bed, and that's what he did for fun. And that made him an incredible, like great accountant. But I didn't want to do that because, I have better things to do. So that was one of the reasons that, my ability just wasn't as good as I would like. And that really bothered me because I take pride in what I do. I would like to be good at things. I thrive to be good at what I do, but I just wasn't. Let's see. The fourth reason I would say would be how competitive the industry is. Um, Honestly, it was a little bit too aggressive for me. And of course, there are great people in the industry. I've made many great friends. However, there were times where like I felt hesitant and a little scared to like seek for help. Um, and that's not a great feeling, especially when you're stuck and you need some help to move forward. Um, I just like I had the kind of feeling that you really have to be kind of aggressive and a little mean to, survive or come up ahead. And yeah, I didn't really like that. So those were some of the biggest reasons that caused me to never settle for this role, and which eventually led me to start exploring other options. So, because I am the kind of person that doesn't settle, I actually started dabbling with programming for like 30 minutes or an hour after work when I started working at Stockbridge. Um, but even before then, I have always wondered about, other options. And I've always been curious about programming, but I just never really explored it. And the reason is because, so I took a computer science class in college and just completely did not like it. I remember on day number one, our professor came into class and told us, hey, you don't need to come to class. I upload all my videos online and all the exams are done online. You only need to show up for the final. And if you get a 90 and above in the class, you don't even need to take the final. So I basically didn't really go to class as often as I should have. And when I did, it was really boring. I think the professor kind of like read off books and PowerPoints. And we basically just, messed around and didn't really feel the need to listen. Um, and another main reason for not exploring was also kind of due to the stereotypes that like girls don't code. I actually remember like exploring career options in senior year of high school, and I actually asked my mentor about engineering options, but I think at the time I was like interested in like doing robotics or some kind of hardware engineer because I thought it was cool. It's like building blocks or something. I don't know. And he shot it down right away. He was like, hey, no, like that's too technical for girls. You wouldn't like it. There's like not gonna be any girl in your class. It's not for girls. And and I listened to them. Um, but even with all these reasons to say no, I am really glad that I finally just decided to give it a shot. Because I have nothing to lose. And at the time, I was just feeling really lost in my accounting career and I was stuck and I needed a light or I needed an inspiration. Um, but I must say, like in the beginning, I was pretty lost. I think I started with like HTML, CSS, and a little bit of JavaScript from like one of the self-study website. I think it was like Udemy or something. Um, and I did not like JavaScript. Like I got really intimidated. It was just not for me. I didn't really get it. Then I moved on to like game development, thinking it's fun because I grew up playing games. I thought it was cool. So I started messing with Unity and C Sharp. Like I made this little pinball games where you use your key to control the little ball and then you're kind of going around like avoiding obstacles. It was really cool for a second. Like you showed it to all my friends. They were like, "Oh my god, this is so cool." Um, but eventually, I just felt like one, I think the learning curve for C sharp was a little too large, considering I don't really have any programming background. And I kind of just like started building. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just following tutorial videos on YouTube. And I also didn't really know how bad I wanted to be a game developer. Um, so that was a failure. However, luckily, my very best friend, one of my best friends, he is an iOS engineer as well. And I remember I would just just constantly complaining about I don't know what I want to do to him at the time, and he just got so sick of me that one day he's just like, "Have you considered like Swift and iOS engineering?" I'm like, "What is that?" I'm like, "Do you work for Apple?" And he's like, "No." And he sent me this free resource, which is called Hacking with Swift. It's a blog written by Paul Hudson. It is amazing. It has a bunch of free resources with like really good quality video and content. And I did a program called 100 Days of Swift, which basically is like 100 days of these little projects where you only need to spend like an hour or two each day on a very small digestible project or part of a project. And if you want, you can do the homework afterwards and like explore a little on your own. And it was a lot of fun for me. It started to feel possible and reachable. Like I didn't really feel like I was way over my head with this dream of doing something that I had no knowledge of. It felt doable. And I did Hacking with Swift slash 100 Days of Swift for about like 2-ish months. And then I decided, I think I'm going to give this a try. I really hated the feeling of being lost. And I think like that new love and interest for programming kind of gave me hope and just like passion and energy again. So it's all about it. So I spoke to my boss, um, basically decided on a date to quit. And that was at the very beginning of COVID. So that's how I quit my job. And once I quit, I started studying like crazy. I mean, that's honestly, there's no secret to success. You really have to like put down your head and get to work. The code is not going to write itself. And there was definitely a learning curve at first. Like, I didn't know what an int versus a var is, like, what the heck. But I just kept telling myself, like, you know how other people say, like, oh, it's not rocket science, you'll get it. Like, for me, it's like, oh, it's not accounting, like, you'll get it. Um, and, excuse me. So it was kind of like studying for the CPA exams all over again for me. Like, I already have the experience of studying like 8 or 9 hours a day. Um, so it felt familiar. It felt like something I could do. I basically studied the 100 Days of Swift materials and I just redid the projects. I read up on blogs. But mostly I think I just practiced the projects over and over again, which I think was actually one of the mistakes that I did as a beginner at the time, because instead of taking the time to really understand the code, I spent most of my time like kind of doing projects to where I kind of know what to do with the code, but I didn't know why the code was there. Um, but that's pretty much what I did. And then 3 months later, I completed the 100 Days of Swift challenge and I started building my own app. It's a very small, like, simple notes app. It's called Little Things. Um, and it was a lot of fun. And it was really hard to, like, I didn't really know what I was doing. I had to do a lot of research. But honestly, the passion really helped with the long hours. I think like time flew by and I just felt like I got pulled into this whole new world when I was coding and it was great. Like I genuinely was interested and I wanted to be there, which I think is a very strong trait for all self-taught people who, learn a new skill or craft on their own time because it's driven by like pure passion and interest. And it's not something like an academic degree or like an A on a test, you know? So I studied a lot, and on top of studying, I also found a mentor, and I got really involved on Twitter. I found this amazing like virtual community in the middle of COVID where you couldn't really have any like just people interactions. So I am a people person. Like I am an introvert, but I love people. I love meeting friends. So I started hosting these or co-hosting these little like virtual networking events. I hosted a couple hackathons with a great friend, and then I co-hosted another event to like celebrate Chinese New Year and then kind of introduce the entire like Chinese New Year background and culture to other people in the industry slash community. Um, and this is when I got involved with iOS Dev Happy Hour, which is the virtual networking event that I mentioned. The goal is to bring current and aspiring devs together in a very like non-pressured space. You guys get to just talk to each other over a drink or no drinks. You chat, you talk about anything you want, and you just get to know each other. And that was really helpful for me to get insight from current developers on, their journey, what they did, and also be surrounded with other aspiring engineers who are basically in your place, like doing exactly what you're doing. So you're all kind of just working together towards the same goal. And that really helped. So I was basically like a member with iOS Dev Happy Hour. So I was basically a member at first. I was a member with iOS Dev Happy Hour for a couple months because we have one event a month. And then when I became good friends with the organizer slash founder, Alan, he asked me to become a co-host or slash admin, and I happily said yes. And that's how I got involved. And I do want to mention how important this is for me, just being involved with the community, because I actually found my first job kind of through I was the happy hour. So as I was saying, I was really involved with the community, and we have a Slack channel to just for the members to chat. And the Slack channel has these different rooms. We have like a room for like just like drinks. We have a room for like anime. We have a room for like code questions, algorithm questions, and we had a room for jobs. And I remember one day I saw a message in the jobs channel that said, hey, like my company is currently looking for a junior dev. If you're interested, send me a resume. And I had a good resume. I had like a resume that I actually worked on a couple of days before. So it was in really good shape. I had it ready. So I messaged the girl and I said, hey, I would love to, interview and learn more about this role. Here's my resume. And she passed it along to the recruiter. I got a call. And basically, I want to say like 2 weeks later, I went through, I think it was three or four rounds of interview. And then I got an offer with this company. It was on my first try. So I do want to mention like how lucky I am to just like, I guess, be at the right place at the right time and also like be prepared and had a resume ready. But I got really lucky, and that's basically how I found my first job in iOS, industry as an engineer within 8 months. And I don't want to say that it was easy because, it was not easy. It did take a lot of hours and hard work, many, many hours of code, like many lines of code for me to get to where I was. However, it was inevitable for me to feel kind of like an imposter. You know, like on Urban Dictionary, the definition for imposter syndrome is the persistent inability to believe that one's success is deserved or has been legitimately achieved as a result of one's own effort or skills. And while I was working, I kept seeing like so many of my friends who were also aspiring engineers at the time that were interviewing and struggling to either get interviews or struggling to get offers. And I would always feel like, like, how did I get so lucky? Like, why did I get so lucky? And did I deserve this? Um, I also had friends at the time who like raised questions like, oh, what if you don't love it in a year or two? What if you're just like drunk in love right now, and once the excitement wear off, you will realize that you're not actually, you know, that into this that you think. I actually had a friend, I remember that when I told him about my job offer and like how happy I was working with the company. And he looked at me, he's like, you shouldn't call yourself an engineer if you haven't been in the industry for more than 2 years. Um, and that was really rough for me. That also just constantly made me feel like, oh my God, like, do I deserve to be here? Um, and especially with how lucky I felt just getting a job like so smoothly compared to some other of my friends. However, I also know that my heart is really happy when I'm programming, when I'm doing this, when I'm working, and that means something. Like, I was never this happy as an accountant, but as an engineer, I felt like I was able to use my strength. I think I am both technical and creative, and accounting is a little too technical. Like, you really can't and shouldn't be creative as an accountant. However, with engineering, it's like the best world of both. Like, you get to make anything out of nothing. Like, as engineers, we talk to computers that are robots and a whole nother language that's not from any country. Like, it made me feel proud, but also as a stronger person and as a stronger professional because, I literally quit an entire very technical career and successfully transitioned into another pretty technical career in the middle of a global pandemic. And if I can do that, like, I can do anything I want. So I hope everyone enjoyed my journey. I hope you enjoyed the story. I do hope that you took some things away from my journey. I guess for me, there are three things that I do want to emphasize that everyone can take with you after this talk. I think the first one is it's really important to approach things with a beginner's mind. Like, take your time, be curious. It's okay to be intimidated, but do take the first step when you're ready. And then you realize it's not going to be intimidating anymore. The second thing is, don't be afraid to fail because what if you don't? And then the third thing is, like, be involved. On top of developing new relationships and friendships, you just never know who you will meet and where these new relationships will take you in life. And that is my talk. Thank you so much for your time.